We bring you a chilling short story titled The Book of Skin. The bigger the house, the harder it is to clean. That's what I learned working for Sharon. She liked the big houses, sure. She got to cook in the gorgeous kitchens and chit-chat with the wealthy residents. Me? I got the scut work, scrubbing bathtubs as big as jacuzzis and mopping floors 3 times the size of my apartment. We pulled into the Thompsons' driveway on a Wednesday afternoon, just as the sun began to set. This house wasn't like the others. The faded, rust-red brick facade reminded me of all the other crumbling institutions in town, not old-time elegance. The driveway buckled and cracked, tufts of green grass creeping through the gaps. "Nice, isn't it?" Sharon asked, sticking her key in the lock. "Sure." "Beautiful." We stepped into the foyer. The house was dark. Heavy shadows stretched across the carpet. The high ceiling stretched above her, dark and cavernous. Sharon led me through a dark hallway, into the living room. "I'm here, Mildred," she said to the lump of blankets on the couch. "Brought a friend to help me. She'll clean the library while I cook your stew, okay?" The red blanket slipped, revealing the other half of the woman's face. She looked as most old women do, sunken skin, brittle white hair. The only thing that set her apart were her brown, nearly black, eyes. "The library?" she said, a feeble murmur. "Yes. You said you wanted everything dusted and polished, didn't you?" "Oh, yes." She nodded. Her old bones crackled with the movement. "What's your name?" "Mary. Mary. Come closer." I took a hesitant step forward. The smell of must and bad breath washed over me. "Yes, Mrs. Thompson?" Snap. Mildred's hand shot out from the mess of blankets. It latched onto mine in a painful vice grip. "Don't touch the books," she rasped. What?" "Whatever you do, don't touch any of the books." "But I'm supposed to clean." "Don't touch the books," she hissed. "They're my David's. His research, his journals. Don't touch the books or—" "Okay, Mildred." Sharon stepped forward, laying a hand on her. "She won't touch the books." "She heard you." The grip released. Mildred sank back into the blankets and closed her eyes, her breaths ragged and loud. "Are you okay?" Sharon asked, tenderly stroking the old woman's hair. "Fine," she whispered. "Okay. Come on, Mary. I'll show you where the library is." I followed her through the corridor, nervously fidgeting with my necklace. Deer heads hung on the walls, black eyes formatted with dust. An old, dented suit of armor leaned against the corner, missing a few panels. At the end of the room stood ornate French doors. "Here it is," Sharon said, swinging the doors open. She forced a mop into my hands. "Mop the floor. Polish the globe. I'll meet up with you in about an hour, after I've got dinner on." "But not the books?" I asked, my voice quavering. Don't worry about her. She's just a little nervous around new people." Sharon spun to leave. "But sure, don't clean the books. Less work for you, right?" She pulled the doors shut. I plopped the bucket on the floor. The soapy water sloshed inside. I dipped the mop in, ran it across the oak floor. The wet swipes glistened under the light of the chandelier. The library was beautiful, even under the layers of dust. Oak-paneled walls, covered in bookshelves. A bay window, facing the woods. Above the stairs, a painting of an olive-skinned man with gleaming black eyes. David Thompson, according to the nameplate. I swiped the mop across the floor. Swish. Swish. In less than 20 minutes I was done. The library wasn't that large, and nearly empty, save for the books. I turned my gaze upwards. "Do I really have to mop the upstairs?" I thought, eyeing the curved staircase snaking up the wall. "Mildred probably can't even climb the steps, right?" But Sharon can. Knowing her, she'll check my work." I sighed and climbed the stairs. Each step groaned beneath me. "Whoa," I muttered. The books up here were different. Not battered textbooks and encyclopedias, or trashy paperbacks, like on the shelves below. These were dark, leather-bound tomes, bearing no markings on the spine. Bet these are old and valuable, I said to myself, skimming a finger along the spines. Curious, I finally pulled one from the shelf. On the cover was no writing, just a symbol. A 7-pointed star, embossed in gold. I flipped it open. Snatches of sentences leapt out to me from the yellowed paper. Place a lit candle at each apex. Represents darkness, plague, infection. 1 drop for each year on this earth. One page in the middle had no text, just a large drawing of a 7-pointed star, and a woman kneeling in the center. Schlip. I pushed the book back onto the shelf. When I finished mopping, I collapsed into one of the armchairs next to the small coffee table. That's when I noticed the book on the table. Unlike the rest of the library, it was clean. Not a spot of dust on it. That's weird. No one's been up here for months, probably. Mildred can't even climb these stairs. So who pulled it from the shelf? She grimaced, deep in thought. Unless Sharon pulled it out. Sharon snooping. That was difficult to imagine. I stood up and leaned over the book. The cover was a lighter leather than the other books. Golden tan, with darker patches and few brown dots speckling the surface. No title, no symbols, no markings of any kind. I reached out a hand. Softly, my fingers skimmed the cover. I froze. A light touch caressed my back. I whipped around. Sharon? I called out. Hello? No reply. The room was empty. Just the dark oak walls, the endless rows of strange books. The portrait of David Thompson watched me, his dark eyes glittering with mirth. Even I'm going crazy in this creepy old house. I guess that's how Mildred got to be, how she is. I plopped down on the armchair again, massaging my temples. My legs ached, my back stung. My eyes fell on the book again. I picked it up. Hands pressed into my back. Hard. I leapt off the armchair. Who's there? I yelled. But the upstairs of the library was completely empty. I peered over the banister. But everything was as I left it. The wet floor, the shining globe, the untouched books. No one was there. My heart thrummed in my chest. Goosebumps spread up my arms. What the hell is going on? Shaking, I returned to the seat. No. The leather of the book was covered in small, prickly bumps. What the hell? I looked down at my own arms. Then at the book. There was no mistaking it. They were both covered in the same, minuscule bumps. Heart pounding, I pressed 2 fingers into the tan leather, depressing it. At the exact same moment, I felt 2 fingers pressed into my spine. I backed away. Panting. Heart pounding. What the hell is this thing? What sort of crazy illusion is this? My foot caught on the mop. I flew backwards. Hot pain shot through my back, as the mop handle jabbed into my shoulder blades. The stairs lay a dizzying few feet away from where I'd fallen. Missed by an inch, missed by a yard. I stumbled to get to my feet. I grasped the railing, the wood growing slick with my sweat. As I did, I took one last glance back at the book. A purple line ran across the cover. The impression of a mop handle. Sharon! Sharon! I flew towards the kitchen, yelling at the top of my lungs. Sharon! The aroma of beef stew hung heavy in the air. On the stove sat a pot, curls of steam rising towards the ceiling. What? Sharon asked, not looking up. There's a book in the library. I panted. Well, of course there's a book in the library, Mary. No. I mean, a terrible book. I touched it and... Sharon laughed. Didn't heed Mildred's warnings, I see. Sharon. I grabbed her by the shoulders. Listen to me. Hey. Get your hands off me. Come with me to the library. Okay. Fine. Fine. Sharon fiddled with the dial on the stove. The flame underneath the pot shrunk. I'm coming. I led Sharon into the library, my legs shaking underneath me. Without a word, I yanked Sharon up the stairs. We stepped over the mop and stared at the little coffee table. That book. Sharon raised an eyebrow. Okay. It's a little weird looking, I'll give you that. Touch it. Sharon shot me a weird, questioning look. Then she approached the table. With a steady hand, she reached out and poked the front cover. She jumped. Hey! Don't go poking me like that. That wasn't me. What are you talking about? Of course it was you. I'll leave the room. Then touch it again. I decisively turned around and descended the stairs. As soon as I shut the library doors behind me, I heard the scream. I pulled the doors open to find Sharon clambering down the stairs. Don't touch that book, she said shakily, bits of auburn curl falling around her face. That one is, well, never mind. Just stay away from it. Why? What do you know about it? I don't know anything about it. I just think. Mildred asked us not to. Sharon ran a hand across her forehead, pushing the damp curls from her face. Just finish up cleaning, okay? Come to the kitchen when you're done. I'll drop you off at home. I waited until Sharon's footsteps faded into silence. Then I raced back into the library and up the stairs. The initial shock had worn off. My fear had evaporated, leaving behind an itching, morbid curiosity. I ran over to the table, poked the cover of the book. I felt the familiar warm poke on her back, and a small smile flicked across my lips. I wonder how it does that. I flipped the front cover open, felt a warm hand brush against my shoulders. The pages were stiff and warped, as if water-stained, and a deep yellow color. The first page had only 2 words on it, handwritten in fancy scrawl. David Thompson. I flipped through the next few pages. November 10th, 1958. January 21st, 1959. Beneath each date were walls of frenzied, almost illegible, script. Words popped off the page, a cold feeling, like plunging into Cayuga. Lake in May, thumping sounds in the attic, above Mildred and my bedroom. The books in the library were all gone, back the next day. I flipped through the pages, faster and faster, the script turning into a smudged blur of yellow paper and black ink. The last entry was dated April 26, 1968. The handwriting was significantly messier, shakier. The words ran into each other, overlapping in illegible scribbles. Smudges of gray covered the page, ghosts of the written words. As if David's palm had touched the wet ink and stamped it all over the page. I squinted, trying to make it out. The door's locked, illegible, can't open, illegible, something's in here, I hear it upstairs, illegible. Oh Lord, please help me. I am sorry, sick for my sins. The way I treated them, illegible, and Mildred. I hear it closer, please help me. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out, let me. Mary? Sharon's voice echoed down the hall. I glanced at the book, heart pounding. Then I slipped it into my bag, before Sharon had the chance to see. As I did, I felt the rough burlap of the bag scratch against my entire body. I'm ready! I called. As soon as I walked into my dingy one-bedroom apartment, I pulled the book out of my bag. It hit the round, metal table with a loud slap. Almost instantly, pain shot up my chest. I forgot, I thought, rubbing my collarbone under the thin golden chain of my necklace. I pulled the flimsy plastic chair across the tile. It made a deafening scraping sound. I snuck a hand inside the cover and flipped it open. My heart stopped. Now, there wasn't just one name written across the page. There were 2. David Thompson. Mary Giordano. I turned the page. The same writing of David stared up at me. Thank God. For a second, I thought there might be something about me in this crazy book. Schlip. Schlip. The old pages crackled and bent under her fingertips. But when I got to the last page of David's journal, I gasped. There, on the page opposite his frantic scribbles, was a date. March 10th, 2017. And below it were familiar words. Thank God. For a second, I thought there might be something about me in this crazy book. What the hell? I yelled. As the words escaped my mouth, black ink bled onto the page. What the hell? Snap. I slammed the book shut. Then I pulled out my phone and dialed Sharon's number. "Hello, you've reached Sharon Tillery. Please leave a message after the beep." I hung up the phone. Then I glanced out the window. Somewhere, less than 5 miles away, in the sea of black to the west, that made up the forest surrounding the mansion, was a very special library. A very special set of books. And some very special answers that I would get out of Sharon tomorrow. "Tell me everything you know about this book. Now." I stood in the kitchen at Sun's Higher. The book sat in front of me on the granite island, still and silent. I wonder if it's recording this entire conversation, I thought. Sharon pretended the soup on the stove needed urgent stirring. The steam billowed up towards the ceiling in puffs of cloud. "Sharon? Tell me. I only know rumors," she said finally, fidgeting with her red ponytail. "Only things I've heard, nothing based in fact." "Then tell me rumors. You know, you weren't supposed to touch the books. Really, Mary, I should send you home. If you won't tell me, Mildred will." I grabbed the book, feeling the familiar press of hands across my chest. "Mildred! Hey, Mildred! Don't!" Sharon hissed. She grabbed me by the arm and dragged her back into the kitchen. "What are you trying to do, give the old lady a heart attack? Geez!" She ran back to the stove, stirred the soup once more. Clink, the spoon smacked against the pot. Then she took a seat across from me and pursed her lips. "The book, it's David Thompson, I think. I already know that it's his. His name's right there." "No. It's not his. It's him." "What?" "If the rumors are true, that book is bound in his skin." I instantly recoiled. Nausea flooded my body. I stole a glance at the cover, imagining that tan, speckled skin belonging to the man in the portrait. Sharon stirred the soup again, nervously. "David was a seedy guy. Liked women, especially those with rings on their fingers, if you know what I mean." "You know him?" "No. He died about 12 years ago, long before I started working here. Back when Mildred could afford a full staff. I heard all about David from the old handyman, more than I wanted to know, to be honest." "How'd he die?" "I don't know how he died exactly. Maybe a heart attack, but they say that didn't make much sense because he was such a health nut." Sharon wrapped her fingers on the granite, blue eyes cast downwards. "I do know where he died, though." "Where?" "In the library." The nausea threatened to burst into full-on gagging. I swallowed, hard, and tried to regain my composure. "So how did the book happen? After he died, did they, When they found David, he was missing 2 large patches of skin. One on his chest, one on his back. That was the gossip, anyway. Don't know how much of it is true." For a second, I considered telling Sharon everything. That I took the book home. That it seemed to record my thoughts. Instead, I forced a smile and said, "Thanks for telling me, Sharon. You're welcome. Now, put that book back where it belongs." For the first time, I obeyed her. I cradled the book in my arms, walked back into the library. David stared down at me from the confines of his portrait. I climbed the steps and walked over to the table. I set the book down, feeling the familiar stroke of a finger across my back as my hand left the book. "There. Back where you belong," I said shakily. I began to descend the stairs. Snap. I whipped around. The book was open on the table, its yellowed pages facing towards the heavens. I took a tentative step forward. My heart began to pound in my chest. "Hello?" I called, though I knew it would go unanswered. I took another step. And another, until I was standing in front of the table and staring down at the pages. Words bloomed in black ink on the yellowed paper. "Hello?" Above it was my entire conversation with Sharon, annotated with my own thoughts next to the dialogue. My body began to shake. Waves of nausea rolled over me. Numbness crept up my body. "Stop it!" I yelled. "Stop it!" My heart pounded faster in my chest. It's copying everything I say. Everything I think. How? Why? Stop it! Stop it! This time, different words appeared on the page. Words in a blocky, jagged scrawl. No. I won't stop. Sharon? I screamed. But the doors to the library were now shut. There was no way my voice could travel through the thick wood, through the cavernous mansion, all the way to Sharon in the kitchen. I glanced back at the book. No. I won't stop. A sound filled my ears. Whispers, hissing and muttering, overlapping each other in frantic tones. Then more words bloomed on the page. I know what you did. What? What did I do? One word bloomed on the page, in red instead of black. Thief. No, I yelled. You stole this book. I was just curious. No. This isn't the first thing you stole, is it? It is. You steal something at every house. Even the chain hanging from your neck. It's from that old, blind woman that Sharon knows, isn't it? My fingers touched the necklace. That's not true. It is. You know it is. I picked up the book. Felt the familiar brush of hands across my back. Then I placed it on the floor, raised my foot. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I brought my foot down on the book as hard as I could. Smack! A crushing pain hit my chest. I toppled backwards, gasping for air. Thump! I fell to the floor. The library twisted and spun above me. David Thompson's eyes stared down at me. A burning heat pressed against my chest, my back. Then the world faded to black. I don't understand. Sharon choked through sobs. I just saw her an hour ago. She was asking me about, well, never mind. We were talking. The police officer offered her a consoling smile. I'm so sorry. How did she die? The officer bowed his head and answered, we'll have to wait for the official autopsy. But it looks like a heart attack. As he disappeared into the darkness, Sharon turned back to the mansion. Its hulking shadow rose up against the indigo sky, dotted with stars. She turned and went back inside. Ran into the library, up the stairs. The book lay on the table, where it was supposed to be. The cover somehow looked lighter. Paler. Smoother. Sharon picked it up, feeling the brush of hands over her back. Mildred? She called, walking through the dark hallways. Mildred? She found Mildred on the usual sofa, wrapped in her blankets. Sharon, she whispered, her eyes widening. Don't touch that book. This is him, isn't it? Sharon spat, throwing the book on Mildred's lap. He killed her. Mildred's frail, old hands poked out of the blankets. As her fingers grazed over the cover, her lips curled into a small smile. David, oh David. Then her eyes grew sharp, and her smile faded. I wouldn't put it past you to kill a poor young girl. What happened, Mildred? What really happened? She ignored Sharon's question. Instead, she pulled the cover open. Only one name was inscribed on the first page, Mary Giordano. You killed that poor girl so you could be free of this place, didn't you? She said into the book. I see you haven't changed a bit, David. Still not a shred of respect for women, or for life itself. Sharon pursed her lips, clasped her hands, looked at poor Mildred with sad eyes. You were supposed to be trapped forever, Mildred whispered. Suddenly she shook the book with all her might and let out a shriek of anguish. You were supposed to be trapped. For what you did to me. For what you did to your family. Do you hear me? Mildred. Sharon lay her hands on her shoulders. Easy, it's okay, You were going to be trapped forever. Mildred yelled. All that effort. Locking the doors shut. Telling the police I never heard your screams. All for nothing. Mildred sunk back into the sofa and closed her eyes. All for nothing.